Welcome back to DC EKG, a part of the Big Wig Podcast Network and distributed by our partner Evergreen. We're talking with our friend John Czwartacki, the executive coach and leader of DC EKG, who had a storied career in Washington and in the public and private sector. John, last segment we talked about the arc of your professional and personal life to mid-1999. You're on a new therapy, you're on a new drug, you're able to come back to Washington, D.C. and pick up where you left off. Let's pick up the story right there.
Sure. Well, we referenced this last time, it was that I hit bottom. The drug is luckily starting to kick in, but my bottom, my functioning is really out the window. I can't walk, can really talk. I had trouble breathing, even swallowing. And now I've turned things around, getting fitter, better, happier, and within 10 years of this moment, I have got my job back. I met a girl. We get married. I have then 4 boys. The whole world is available to me. So the whole thing I credit from these innovations. So I'm back on the Hill, working for Senator Lott, and that's going great. But the patient trial was incredibly stressful physically, and I think I needed a nap. Plus I got married, so maybe it was time to, start about
head off the Hill to the private sector. So where'd you go?
Well, I joined a small public affairs firm in downtown called the Green Hook. Great guys, but that for about a year, 1 year passes, and then 9/11 hits, and of course they don't have a public affairs person running FEMA, which then was the
Federal Emergency Management Administration.
This is pre-DHS, anything. So it was the only thing they had to respond and recover. So, I was there on 9/12, helping them run.
Really?
So, yeah.
Who called you out of curiosity? How'd you know to go over there?
Yeah, their deputy chief was a friend of mine. I'm just based on his name. Really great guy. Was someone who I called after 9/11 saying, you guys, what do you need? You need help with dry cleaning? You need snacks? What can we do? So I go in there and they're like, by the way, we have someone doing this.
Something a little bit more than snacks.
Yeah.
We need you to get to work.
Yeah. So by the end of the week, I was taking the director Hallbaugh to the Sunday shows, and within a month, they had me on there full time.
And how long did you serve there at FEMA as part of this 9/11 response and ultimately everything that developed after that?
For about a year. It was intense. I was up in New York a lot in that first year on the pile while it was still smoldering, and all the amazing people who did amazing work. It was, again, I couldn't walk here before this, and now I'm walking on the pile, on the rubble of downtown.
And you glanced over this. I just want to come back to this. You mentioned thanks to the innovations, and I just want to hit it again. So you're on the one drug. That drug basically fails. They put you on a new drug, Copaxone, made by Teva Pharmaceuticals, which is an Israeli company widely known for generics. That's what it's well known for. It's the biggest generic company. But it's got this innovative new product that I think the first question is, well, why does that work? And the other one, but they don't really know why Copaxone works, right?
No. In fact, it was very much different than how the first drug I was on was called beta-seron. They thought it was totally different efficacy. So they don't know why, but it did, and they got approved, and it worked for me. So,
right. So then you're up in New York. You're walking on the pile, as you said. Working with all these amazing people who are digging through the rubble and helping family members grieve and identify people who were murdered on 9/11.
Yeah.
So you're there a year, and then what happens?
Well, then, like I said, I need a nap, and so I'm back. I'm talking to friends and people around and saying, "Look, I'm thinking about leaving, and what we think is out there." And lo and behold, I get connected with our good friend Bill Barr, who is at Verizon as general counsel. He's looking for some comms help in his operation at Verizon. So they hire me in early '93, January or so. So I go to Verizon and settle out there and have a good 10-year run or so there. And what was crazy then, while it was definitely more manageable hours, it was fun because I got to straddle the changing media world, right? We're deploying broadband wireless aggressively, and how that affect, how that impacts all of us is I'm actually seeing the people who are doing that. And so we go from old world to new. And in fact, one of the things was emerging around this time, early aughts, 06, 05, I posed something that no one looked, they all said, what are you talking about? I want to do a blog. I said, let's do the first public policy blog ever. And they're like, God bless you. And they said, what's that? Go do that. And if it fails, we know who did it. So I launched the first public policy blog ever. In fact, Google gave ours credit for modeling theirs, which came along about a year and a half later. So anyway, it was, again, to see how blogging and then Twitter and then Facebook changed how we communicate. I got to have a front row seat. And at first, very optimistic how that would work out, and then not so much. But I'm there for 10 years, and then...
Welcome to high tech, huh?
My wife is from Minnesota, and we have 4 boys, proving that sports in D.C. Not as easy to do as these 4 boys' appetite for them would be. So we moved back to Minnesota, where our family's from. So that's in the early 2012, 13. And I go out there and hang out and go in self-imposed exile for a while.
That's right, your fortress of solitude. But you have a great family life. Kids are growing up. They're having an opportunity to make friends, play sports. But then one day, late in 2016, Donald Trump actually wins the presidential election, and you get a phone call.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you came out of your exile in Minnesota back to Washington to serve in the Trump administration.
Well, this is kind of like I sat down, I got the call, and they wanted to be a volunteer to help them get a couple of cabinet members nominated through the Senate. And I'm like, Lexi, I know where this can end up, and I know myself.
Lexi's your wife.
Yes, my wife. And it's kind of a gateway drug for me. So I just want to know that I know my resistance is going to be low. And so I volunteer remotely over the phone for December. And then I realized, D.C. is much warmer in January than Minnesota. So I go out to D.C. for about a month to be full-time on the ground. And I help with a couple of guys where I met Mick Mulvaney, who was trying to be named to OMB. And he asked me to join him in the administration upon his confirmation. So it happened, and they asked me to come, and so I asked to fulfill that with myself.
With the powers that be, and she said yes.
Yeah, luckily we moved hell and earth to do that, and we pulled up again. But luckily also for the kids, they had gotten their early start in schools and stuff here. So we had friends, we had some familiarity.
Be able to walk back in.
Sure.
Right, sure. And in terms of all that, and again, working in the executive branch must be incredibly stressful, but how's the health as you begin this tenure, this service with Mick, and ultimately ascend to working for and advising the President of the United States?
Well, again, I'm some old chicks. It's not really, it's not really wear this on my sleeve, but around 2015 is when the Copaxone, which I credit for everything, starts to get a little cranky. They break through. It's a jalapeno drug, right? By now, there are like half a dozen more drugs on the market that are on cutting edge. And so this drug is it's trying to break through. I'm having micro attacks that you pick up on MRI, but not in my everyday life. Well, then one really does hit me. I do see a neurologist who puts me on another drug called Tysabri, which has great promise. I'm very excited to do it. It does effectively shut any chance of your own nerve cells crossing the blood-brain barrier to do the nasty stuff. Now, there's one problem with it. You can 5% chance your body develops antibodies to this blockade, and your own body says we're not having this.
Right.
And so my body decided to do that, and so for a time, again, with now in administration, this is early 18. I'm doing Tysabri, and it starts to break through. So it's funny. The budget in 17, we did the skinny and the full budget in 17. I brought a copy of the budget with me to my infusion of Tysabri in infusion chair, on the chair with all these good people fighting cancers and other things they're dealing with. And I'm editing the budget, the president's budget, and adding the comments to what we're going to do communications wise. So I had 6 hours to kill, so I don't know.
And a good red pen. So
Yeah.
you're advising the director of Office of Management and Budget, who then takes on a second hat as the director of the CFPB.
Yes.
So you're doing double duty both in the White House and then across the street at CFPB headquarters. And one thing leads to another, and ultimately Mick is named as Chief of Staff to the President of the United States.
Yep.
And you are going with Mick to every one of these jobs, fulfilling your role with your big red pen, but more importantly, working directly with media, working directly with staff, trying to drive the administration's message and its agenda forward. So by the time Mick becomes chief, and you're now working directly in the White House, advising the president, the vice president, many other principals in addition to Mick, how's that going in terms of the work-health balance for you?
Now it's getting really squirrely, right? So while I was still at OMB with Joe, what was happening was it had really first broke through so early 18. It really puts me on my NRH to recover from that little episode, which is where I got used to using this robot leg. I told you I had lost function of one leg entirely in this April-ish, May of 18. About this time is when I go over full time to the CFP, but the episode just began when I was at OMB at the White House. I recover pretty well,
But what about this robot leg? What's this therapy that helps ensure your recovery is as large as it can be?
Yeah, so I mean, this is just where life science again works miracles. I don't deserve any of this, but I am the beneficiary of all these great, bright, smart people. What happened was, again, my body did not like using its leg, and so I wasn't talking to it very well anymore. And then we decided, therapists were like, "Look, we have a device that we can fit your body with simulators, electric stimulants to urge your body muscles to make the movement that it needs to do. So we'll remind it to how to walk." And so they would use that, and the first time in weeks, my leg had not moved, but it was starting to basically prime the pump for it to work again. So it began to do that, and so I was up and walking within a couple months. But again, this was go from 0 to not 50, but thanks to that. Now again, they're now realizing that the drug Tysabri was not effective here because my body decided it had the codes to unlock it, and we're searching for a new drug. And around this time, as I'm rehabbing and working at CFB, and then Mick gets named to the White House, and they asked me to come over to detail me over there. And by the end of 18, January of 19, I move over to the White House, which, circling back, as a government nerd as a kid, this was my dream job, right? This is Yankees. This is
Completely
center field for
Absolutely.
Yankees. This is
World Series every day, Game 7.
What's MS? I'm going to do this.
Bottom of the ninth.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't care if my scooter doesn't fit in the White House elevator. I'm going to make it happen. So she doesn't, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly like they made that building to be wheelchair friendly.
No, it turns out, though, I think I'm the first nonfiction character to work in the West Wing with MS. But that's a reference to the West Wing,
It is.
President Bartlett.
Absolutely.
Is that true? You think you're the first person?
I think so.
You don't know of anyone else, so that's interesting.
So I've had a blessed life. I can do all these amazing things, and forward to by a lot of help on this, God, researchers, innovation, these drugs, they've all made this possible, for which I'm so grateful and to be able to do them. And so by now I'm West Wing, helping advise the Chief of Staff, and then by summer of 19, this is, while the president was in DPRK, I noticed that the MS is starting to get cranky again and break through.
Okay, I want to back up for a second, a couple references you make, because I went over to the West Wing with Mick, too, from OMB, and the tenor of the conversation at the time was, we have to get CZ in the West Wing to help us on communications. Communications was not a stress-free activity in the Trump administration, and we knew we needed all the help we can get. You had health challenges. and there were some frank discussions about whether or not you were up for it, if you wanted to do it, and you said, absolutely, I want to do it, to everyone's relief. And there were, I think there was a commitment to try and pace you so you weren't working 80 hours a week, but you any hour with CZ in the day was better than no hour with CZ. So you come in, you're a tremendous help, but by the summer, it's pretty clear that you need to concentrate on your health at this point. And again, let's put this into context. You've got 4 kids, you're married, all this stuff. It's not as if you don't have other obligations as well. And so in the summer, you go permanently over to CFPB, correct?
Yes. And actually it was a little bit, it was around toward the end of 19, early October, late September, I think.
Okay.
It was a week before the press conference where anyway, I don't want to go into it. So I go over, I leave and go back over to the CFB, which
by that time has a confirmed leader, significant leadership, and itself doing intense work to try to undo some of the damages of the Obama years.
Yeah, and then adding insult to injury, as I'm doing a lot of PT and all this to get myself healthier and better, I'm returning from a PT appointment, and I think I may have been a little bit weaker than I needed to be. I fall on the pavement and broke my femoral neck and my hip, which required surgery and 4 pins. But that was a really interesting call that I need to be really cautious about my overall health, because you could have a comorbidity and effect on the rest of it. So that put the writing on the wall right before COVID, and handling of that. We go into lockdown, so we were able to work remotely pretty easily for some time. But while I began to go into retirement.
All right, let's stop there, CZ. And when we come back, we're going to talk about your establishment of this new not-for-profit, nonpartisan organization to advocate for the policies that allowed you to get innovative treatments to work, start a family, and keep your disease under control. This is DC EKG with Joe Grogan and Eric Euland, a part of the Big Wig Podcast Network and distributed by our partner, Evergreen.